Today, we're attempting to save some money by buying the Ruger branded Glock. It's the Ruger Security 9. Are you ready? Stand by. Welcome back to the Humble Marksman channel. I'm David and I'll be your guide in pursuit of practical pistol proficiency. On deck today we are talking about the Ruger Security 9, which is Ruger's answer to the Glock 19. Now when filming this I was actually amazed at how many Rugers I actually own, and Ruger as a brand has a track record of delivering a good product at a great price. And the Security 9 is their attempt to do so on the compact concealed carry home defense jack of all trades type segment. The Ruger Security 9 is kind of a straight down the fairway Ruger. It is a compact 9mm pistol. It has an internal hammer fire masquerading as a striker fire like a lot of the Ruger pistols. It carries 15 rounds in each of its 2 magazines that come with the gun, but the question begins when you start to put out a pistol that's in the compact segment is, how does it stack up against the competition? Is it going to fare well in the market segment that it's competing in? Now the Ruger offerings generally aren't thought of as duty grade equipment. They're generally thought of lower round count type users, civilian grade, and to that point when they do break, the customer service experience, so I'm told, I've never had a Ruger break, is exceptional over at Ruger. So for those of you who are new to the channel, I like to follow kind of a standard format, and there are time codes down in the description where you can jump around to the parts that are of interest for you, but I like to generally run through a review based around the following categories: initial impressions, things that I don't like, the frame, the slide, the sights, the trigger, the rest of the controls, the shooting experience. I would normally do with a concealed carry gun, concealed carry, but because I didn't really like this gun that much, I didn't bother to buy a holster and test it with it. I mean, it's a compact Glock 19 sized pistol that weighs about as much as a Glock 19. It probably is going to carry about like a Glock 19 would. I'll talk about the aftermarket and then finish with a conclusion. So if at any point during this video you find yourself getting value, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss out on any future world-class firearms content. Videos like this aren't possible without the support of my patrons, where they spend just $1 a month and get 3 to 5 pieces of content per week. So thank you, patrons. And if you're into this kind of content, then maybe consider joining Big Daddy Unlimited. It's a buyer's club for Second Amendment type stuff. There's a link down in the description, and your first month is only $1, and then you get access to a huge product catalog at wholesale prices. And if you don't want to support me and you don't like what I'm saying in this video, then share this video to whatever Facebook group you're a member of and tell them to look at this idiot and what he says about your favorite gun. Because this, I'm afraid, is not going to be a positive video. It's not going to be a negative review either. It's just, it's kind of good enough, but it's not something to get excited about. So with that said, let's jump in. So the experience when opening this gun, when they first give you the box, it's going to be a standard Ruger cardboard box. It's not going to make you feel special. They make you fish the pistol out of a plastic bag, and then you're left with this, the Ruger Security 9. There's nothing really about this pistol that screams as like high quality or super high-end finish. The slide's got kind of a black oxide coating, which doesn't do a whole lot to cover the kind of machine marks that are on the slide. All of the controls are kind of good enough. That's going to be a theme on this video. They are good enough, but they're not like fully realized. Like the mag release is kind of undersized for what it is. And when you hold the gun itself just kind of feels weird. Ruger uses a proprietary like glass-filled nylon, which makes their plastic seem like harder and smoother than all other polymer that's typically used on firearms. So it's kind of a weird sort of alien feeling. It just feels almost like it's, I don't know, brittle or something. I mean, I'm not worried about breaking the gun or anything, but it's different from any other gun you're going to pick up at the gun counter. And the lines on the gun are just sort of uninspired. It looks like they handed the concept to their designer, who is really into like DeLoreans and what the future looked like in the 80s, and then this is what they delivered. It's just like, yes, that's what we can do in the 20-teens as far as designing a handgun. So it's just kind of boring looking, and it isn't particularly aesthetically pleasing, so not a big deal. But I mean, that's not why you buy a Ruger generally. It's usually a great product at a good price, but this product's price is right about $400 for MSRP, and right now in fourth quarter 2020 they're going for about $380 to $400. That's a pretty deep market segment. We'll touch in on that more later in the conclusion, but that's what you get when you get the Ruger Security 9. And that brings us to things that I don't like. Now buckle up, friends. Go ahead and call me a Glock fanboy, a Glock shill, whatever gun company you think is paying me to say not nice things about the Ruger. Now I do this on all of my videos where I complain about the product because most YouTube videos are just restating the spec sheet and talking about how much they like the product. Nothing's perfect, and I'm going to talk to you about what I don't like about this product because I recently reviewed 2 other guns in this same price point, in this same category, and I have to say that this one kind of falls flat compared to those other guns. So first and foremost are these sights. They use a ball and cup sight picture like the Glock pistols, and you know when sometimes people look at the same data and come to 2 vastly different conclusions where, like, oh, I don't know, the entire gun buying population looks at Glock sights and think, wow, this is trash, I need to change these. But the Ruger engineers looked at it and said, why do Glocks sell so well? It must be the ball and cup sight picture. We're going to use a ball and cup sight picture on our Security 9. And riffing off that, the sights themselves are kind of big and unnecessarily large. I don't know why they're this big. It's just like, let's use more material to do something that takes less material. I'm not sure why they chose to do that. And then kind of driving the point home is by sloping the back of the slide like this, because it's not an external hammer-fired gun that they're trying to give space for the hammer to fall. They could have had a boxier end where the sights actually came out to the rear. They're leaving about 1 inch of sight radius on the table by abbreviating the end of the slide like that. And on these little tiny pistols, I mean, all the sight radius helps. It helps you get better hits with marginal sight pictures, and it will tell you at a glance just how bad your sights are. So to give up the sight radius in order to have this weird kind of bevel look at the rear of the slide is kind of dumb to me. And pivoting from there, the gun comes with a manual safety. While the trigger weight is a safe action style trigger with the trigger safety, they still have a safety right here that is a manual safety, so you can carry it with the safety on if you want to. The design on the safety is actually quite good, so I'm not going to ding them too much for that, but I'm not a big fan of manual safeties on this style of safe action trigger type pistol. The next is the takedown. They have the same takedown as like the LCP series, which is pulling this little pin right here, which is annoying, and in the B-roll I'm showing you the easy way to do it using the magazine. But a takedown lever wouldn't go wrong on a pistol this size. I don't know why they insist on using the pin. And to be kind of petty, I'm just not a big fan of the stylings of the pistol. It's like they took an LCP2 and they left it in water overnight and it grew, and this is what we have. And I don't know why you wouldn't just design a full-size pistol, then kind of have your full-size pistols and compacts all sort of look like, and then let the micro compacts kind of do their own thing. Like, they don't have to look exactly like each other. They can have similar styling cues, but I don't much care for the looks of the pistol. Now, there are a couple other minor gripes that I am going to sprinkle in throughout the review, so those are just going to be little Easter eggs for you guys as we get going here.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What? No. I didn't.
So moving on to the frame is actually an excellent size. There's really something magical about a 4-inch barreled 9mm pistol with a compact grip length. It has a very good balance to it, and the sculpt of this pistol is okay. It's kind of blocky, sort of in the vein of like a Springfield Hellcat. Not quite as blocky as a Glock, but it's comfortable enough when you get your hand on it. The polymer, as I discussed, is kind of this weird, like hard, slick, plasticky type stuff, so it's very slippery, and then they kind of scored it in the textured areas, but the texturing really isn't good. It is just kind of a slippery gun. The best texturing on the pistol is where they have the scallop at the bottom of the grip where you can strip the magazine out. So that is kind of cool. That is forward thinking of Ruger, so I'm glad that they put that feature in there. But the frame itself, like the trigger guard kind of rubs. It's not a super stylized sculpt. The grip tang itself does have a good sculpt. So as I always like to say, there are 2 ways you can kind of hold on to a gun. The first is geometric and how high the gun lets you get behind it, and how high it lets you get up under the trigger guard. The tang is very well suited, but the trigger guard probably needs work. The bore axis is pretty low, actually. Not quite Glock low, but it does have a low bore axis, and as a result, we'll talk about it in the shooting experience. It is a pleasant shooter, but the frame, generally, not a huge fan of. And then moving up to the slide work. And the slide serrations themselves are very, very usable, but I don't know how well it's coming across in the videography that I did, but you can view the machine marks on where they cut out these slide serrations. It's just not finished like a high-end pistol. Not a big deal considering the price point, but the slide definitely is showing the machine marks, at least on my specific model. The slide finish is pretty slick. This is a black oxide coating. I don't have a holster to show you how much it would wear, but I imagine that this is probably going to wear in pretty good. It's probably going to keep it from corrosion or rusting or anything like that. I wouldn't worry about that, but it's just, it doesn't strike me as a particularly high-end finish. There are no lawyer features on the gun, but there is a little peephole at the top of the hood of the barrel where you can see into the chamber, so you can see the rim of your cartridge if there's one in there. And unlike the SR9 pistol in the past, this actually will allow the hammer to fall with the magazine out of the pistol. So the slide work, I mean, it's good enough. It's not great, but it is functional. It's not going to rust. And the serrations work really well, and the sights are goofy. We already talked about the goofy sights. So playing into the sights, yeah, I'm just not a big fan of these sights, guys. I don't know why you would build a Glock 19 size pistol in the age of, it's milled for Glock sights and not just let it have Glock sights. Like, the world could be your oyster in sights if you just use Glock sight cuts and let aftermarket Glock sights work. Because this is a 4-inch pistol. It'd be the same as a Glock 19 from a sighting perspective, but they decided to do proprietary sights for reasons, I don't know why. But yeah, not a big fan of the ball and cup sight picture. Although the sights themselves are pretty well machined, the edges of the notch and the post at the front are pretty crisp and you can get a pretty good sight picture. However, my front sight was not centered, and as a result, this gun impacts to the right, about 2 inches to the right for me at 10 yards. So I would need to drift my front sight to get it to go. It's not the rear sight. The rear sight is actually centered. I measured it. It's good to go. But the front sight is kind of cocked over to the left. That's going to bring us down to the trigger. And the trigger itself is a safe action style blade with a trigger safety. The take-up is actually quite short before you hit the wall. And then there is a relatively short, creepy throw until the hammer falls. Now, I like to think about good triggers as having a very light take-up, getting to a very firm wall that you just build pressure on until there is a clean release, like a glass rod breaking, and a small amount of over travel. Then the reset is a very positive swing forward that helps assist you get your finger off the trigger so you're ready to shoot again, and the trigger resets quickly. So the trigger pull on the Security 9 is going to be, you hit the wall basically as soon as the trigger blade is depressed and it starts to move to the rear, but it's not a hard wall. It's kind of like a, because it's a hammer fire gun, it's almost like a double action, but it's like an incredibly short, like weird, torquey double action. And it makes this weird sploing noise every time you pull the trigger. The shape of the trigger is actually quite good. As far as managing the trigger is concerned, 5 pull average on my Lyman digital scale was only 4 pounds 14 ounces, so about a 5-pound trigger is actually pretty good, and the shape of the trigger does allow you to manage it pretty well. If the sights were squared away, I'd actually be able to shoot this pretty accurately. The reset is very long on this trigger. It's basically all the way out. So when I was trying to get in rapid fire, it was like a 0.25 split as opposed to like a 20 or less, which is what you generally see on service pistols. And that's going to bring us to the rest of the controls. The controls are okay. I'm just not a huge fan of them. Like, the magazine release is unnecessarily undersized. They could have made a bigger button positioned further back so it's easier to actuate with your thumb. There's kind of a gritty feeling as you depress the mag release. It's not a very inspired mag release, and it's probably the one I hate the most of any of the guns I've messed with recently. The slide stop, and it is a slide stop, not a slide release, because they want you to slingshot the gun to put it back into battery. It says so in the little book they give you. This is the 2020s. I don't know why we're using like 90s dogma on how you're supposed to charge a pistol, but that's what the Ruger engineers thought we would do. It's like everybody else is actually teaching to do slide lock reloads now, except for the guys at Ruger are like, you know, it was awesome, the 90s, so we're gonna slingshot that bad boy. Yeah.
You're a little too heavy, buddy.
Yeah!
We're going down.
Yeah!
Yeah.
The safety is actually pretty good. Now, the safety has sort of the main part of it, then a little extension. In order to actuate the safety, to turn it on, you have to push the main part of the safety, the little leg. You can't push up on it and accidentally engage it, which is good. It sweeps off okay. It's fairly positive when you sweep it off, and you have to very intentionally engage it. So it's something that it's there if you want it. If not, you can ignore it, and it probably isn't going to cause any problems. And as far as safeties goes, this is probably one of the better safeties on a striker gun. I like this safety better than the one that's on like the Taurus G3C. And as far as the shooting experience goes, this thing is actually very pleasant to shoot. Like I said, there's something magical about a 4-inch compact 9mm that it was a joy to shoot, honestly. It was more than a sum of its parts. I've just been crying about the thing so far, but shooting the thing is actually pleasant. It's just the standard at which we're building guns in 2020, I feel like they just kind of like in 2010, this would have been a good first outing for a compact 9mm. It's just in 2020, like the bar is so high and they just kind of almost got to it, and then it's like, it's good enough, just go. But yeah, shooting the gun is great. I didn't have any problems shooting the gun. I actually enjoyed shooting the gun. It's just hard to get excited about it when $400 buys you so many other options in the market right now. And that's gonna bring us to the aftermarket. The aftermarket on this is not great. So I checked out 5 different holster makers to see who's making holsters for this, and Harry's Holsters, QVO Tactical, T-Rex Arms, Vetter, and Tier 1 Concealed. Of those 5, only Vetter was making a holster for this gun. And then I checked on the Ruger website, and they're doing the whole like manufacturer supports the aftermarket for their new pistol. So you can basically buy any DeSantis holster that you could imagine for a gun like this, but I'm not really into leather holsters so much these days, especially not on a gun like this, maybe like a 1911 or a revolver, but for a compact pistol made out of polymer, it's just not a good fit in my mind anyways. And as far as magazines go, that's where this is kind of a big miss. Ruger sells the magazines directly on their website for about $35 a piece. So your budget compact pistol, it costs 10% of the pistol to get another magazine. And that just seems like a miss. Like a $20 price point would make sense for a product such as this. But for them to sell it for 35 bucks for a kind of consumer grade pistol, it's just, the value proposition's tough on this one, guys. I'm really trying to like it, but you're not helping me. So final thoughts on the Ruger Security 9. But first, we have to discuss the sacred relationship between content creator and you, the subscriber. And if you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. So I make world-class firearms content, and as you watch this content, you reflect on your love of tacos. So you take your life savings and sink it on a tortilleria. And start putting my logo on your bags of tortillas that you put on the shelf at all of the supermarkets, so all of the taco eating population of America can know of the world-class firearms content here on the channel.
It's raining tacos on Christmas Eve. Tacos, you gotta believe.
But if you're with me this far, guys, I think I've earned the like right now, and please do subscribe. So final thoughts. The Security 9 is reliable. It works 100%. It's just the design at which they kind of put that 100% at is like 85% of what the market is doing right now. So it's just not, it's not an inspiring pistol. Like if you A/B this with basically any other pistol on the shelf, this is just gonna kind of fall flat. Like the Taurus G3C, despite my personal issues with that pistol, if you held the Taurus G3C and the Security 9, you're gonna think the G3C is a more expensive pistol despite selling in this market for about $100 less. The Security 9 is just, it's overpriced in this market. Like when it was introduced, it was selling for 300 bucks or less if you did some good shopping, but now it's selling for $400. And this is not a $400 pistol. It's just not. Would I carry this pistol and have confidence it would go off every single time? Absolutely, unquestionable. Yes, I do believe it would work. It ran my hollow points with no problem whatsoever. But I just don't like it. Like for $400, you can buy a Beretta APX, which is an amazing duty grade pistol and is selling for $370 right now. You could buy a Canik TP9 Elite, which is another 15-round iron-sighted pistol with the best trigger they put in striker fire guns, and a better box, better controls, everything about the pistol is better. And like, I'm passionate about this because I really like Ruger. Like I own a bunch of Rugers, and this is just not competing as well as Ruger. Like the Ruger Mark series of pistols is still one of the best 22 pistols you can buy. If somebody's buying a 22 pistol, it's like you're dumb if you don't buy a Ruger Mark series. Same thing on the little pocket pistol, like the LCP2 and the LCP are both amazing pistols for those little pocket pistol segment. The 10-22 rifle is still one of the mainstay 22 rifles are going out there, and the Ruger ARs work like they're supposed to and are offered at a pretty good value. Like Ruger ARs, They're not like duty grade and the guys at primary and secondary will make fun of you, but the Ruger ARs work well. I've got a Ruger AR. I don't know what it is about this pistol. Like, it's just they missed their value proposition on this pistol, and I am sad about it. If you're in the segment looking for a pistol, you can feel good about this if this is all you can buy, but if you've got $400 burning a hole in your pocket, I would steer you at maybe the APX or the Canik TP9 series of pistols. Like, they just make a better pistol. And if you have to have an American-made pistol, and I totally understand the desire to have one, Smith & Wesson always has the SD9 VE series, which I would probably recommend over this pistol. The Shield series is right around this price point, granted about half the capacity. But Sky's making pistols here in America. The CPX-1, CPX-2, CPX-3, CPX-4, those series of pistols, all only 10 rounds, are made right here in America. They're a similar design with the internal hammer fire. The trigger on the Sky, I would say, it's a heavier trigger pull, but the quality is better than what they're doing here. It's just, the Security 9, as much as I really wanted to like this, like, I wanted to make a comparison between this and the Taurus and be like, you're dumb if you don't buy the Ruger, but I can't do it. Like, the Security 9 is just, it's not bad, it's just not good. And if you want to check out my review on the Beretta APX, I put it right over here for you. You can click to it right now. That pistol is amazing. I also did a review recently on the Canik TP9 Elite SC, which is right here as well. So check those out if you've got $400 burning a hole in your pocket. I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.